Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away at break of day to find our long forgotten gold. The pines were roaring on the heights, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, its flaming spread, the trees like torches blazed with light. The wind was on the wizard heath, but in the forest stirred no leaf. Their shadows lay, be night or day, and dark things silent crept beneath. Far the pines were torches blazed with light. Flames climb high into the night. The winds went on from west to east. Our movement in the forest ceased, but shrill and harsh across the marsh, its whistling voices were released. Farewell we call to hearth and hall. The wind may blow and rain may fall. We must away ere break of day, far o'er the wood and mountain tall.
Okay, good morning, everybody. How are we all doing today? It is October 11th. Spooky season is upon us. And also pumpkin spice season, or I should say, because it's not actually pumpkin spice season, because the Starbucks near me is sold out of the pumpkin spice. Why, yes, I am a basic white girl, as a matter of fact. I like me some pumpkin spice. Anyway, we opened up with the Wellermans cover of Misty Mountain Cold from the Hobbit movies. Ponythroat says the adaptation of that was one of the few things about that movie that was garbage. I'm going to have to disagree with you, sir. I did like the I did like the songs. I felt that the film adaptations were a little overblown. I mean, for God's sake, The Hobbit is a 400-page young adult novel. It does not need to be 3 movies. You could have crammed... you could have fit this entire story basically really in one movie if you really tried, and multiple fans have edited it as such to be in one movie. In fact, Peter Jackson's Ponythroat clarified that he meant it was not garbage. Yeah, like the main problem with the Hobbit movies is that they just went on and on and on. Like, it's a 400-page book. How do you get 9 hours of film out of this? The answer is you don't. Not well, anyway. In fact, Peter Jackson's original plan was to do, like, the whole story in one movie, and then a second movie would be sort of Gandalf's shit that he was doing with the Necromancer whilst the Hobbits were going on. That would have been better. But no, instead we had to get 3 movies, which meant we had to have, Radagast walking around with literal bird feces in his hair. That's what the kids like. Grody, homeless men with bird shit in their hair. Yes, Biff Stankovich asked about the Maasai. I believe he means the Maori people. And yes, actually, that is what we're talking about. We're going to New Zealand, which is probably the one time anybody will ever say that. And that's also why I opened up with the Misty Mountains Cold song. Because basically nothing has ever happened in New Zealand ever. I mean, this is basically a joke that I was told by a New Zealander once. That basically the history of New Zealand begins with the forging of the 13 Great Rings and it ends with Samwise Gamgee marrying Rosie Cotton. In other words, literally nothing of import ever happened in New Zealand until they filmed The Lord of the Rings there. Well, something of import in the stupidest way imaginable did happen in New Zealand. What happened in New Zealand? Parliament was suspended. Hey, I mean, the American government's also frozen and shut down for the time being, but not quite for the same reasons. The New Zealand Parliament has been suspended after an impromptu Haka broke out following newly elected PM Tipati. Sorry, I got a little mixed up with the parliamentary proceedings here. A new PM of the Tipati Maori, which is the Maori Gibbs Party, Orini Kaipara, she just decided to stand up and start spazzing out and flapping her hands about, as they do. And several people walked out in protest. Several, pahekas, white people. So says Speaker of the House Jerry Brownlee. Nope, not this. The guarantee was that this would not be taking place. This is unreal. Ms. Kaipara Vahine, or whatever, I don't know what the proper term is. As you can see, I don't care much for Margaret Mead. Anyway, yeah. She continues to do furious jazz hands. And then the very fat Speaker of the House. I mean, this dude, I don't know how many tarps they took to make this guy's suit, but yeah, he's a bit tubby. He says the House is suspended, and he walked out. So yes, the American government is shut down, and so is New Zealand's government, or the Parliament at the very least. And that's why the title of the stream is what it is. Because it seems to me, from what little I know of New Zealand politics, there's just Hakas every second for every damn thing imaginable. So let me give you a bit of experience about, my very brief knowledge of this, fascinating cultural thingy. The first time I ever saw this was during the Olympics. It was during rugby. The All Blacks of New Zealand are very good at rugby. I'm, of course, starting to get into the sport thanks to my in-laws from South Africa. Which says, give her the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, I don't really know if this warrants a Nobel Peace Prize. But anyway, what I was saying is, yeah, I first saw the All Blacks doing it, and I said, boy, that looks pretty cool. And, rugby is a pretty close approximation of team-based hand-to-hand combat. So, it's fitting. And then I started seeing them doing it in Parliament and at funerals and when picking up baggage at the airport. Just every 5 seconds, it seems like even white people in New Zealand are, spastically like flapping their hands and bugging their eyes out. And you're kind of cheapening the effect here. And it's getting to the point where, looks pretty lame. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When it's a bunch of 300-pound rugby players about to stomp you into the ground, it looks pretty cool. When it's a tubby 30-year-old woman in a turtleneck, not so much. Yes, this is not the first unplanned, spastic hand flapping in the Parliament. It's just the most recent one. And look, I have nothing against the people of New Zealand, either the indigenous or the settlers. But I'm just saying, if you have to scream, "Kamate, kamate, ora, ora," every 5 seconds, can you just cool it for a bit? Thanks. Oh, here's a 4chan green text that's pretty funny. So says an Englishman. I fly over to New Zealand. The pilot lands the plane and everybody spontaneously does a haka. I get into the baggage claim. Some Maori elder blesses the luggage cart before they can start unloading the plane. That involves a haka. I get to the passport control. A white man with a facial tattoo. He does the haka before stamping every passport. I wait in line for several hours. I get to the front and I'm told to respect the culture of his people. I collect my bag and I leave the airport, having to endure 3 more hakas along the way. I get into the cab driver does a haka before we can start driving. He starts driving me towards the Lord of the Rings monument. I try to protest. He says I have to go or I will offend his Maori ancestors. He is also a white man. I ask him to put on the radio for some music. It's the haka done to a dance beat. I mean, I've never been to New Zealand. I feel like this is a slight exaggeration of what goes on there. But, it doesn't seem too far off. Anyway, looking at the comments, Ponythroat says, the Hobbit movie looks really fake. It runs in 48 FPS because it's the PS3 port. Ponythroat says, I'm going to go to the bathroom and order Indian food. Well, so you're supposed to order Indian food first and then go to the bathroom. Yeah, so all the cardamom and cumin really blast the anus. Dave Slankovich says, women's rugby is now in the professional United States. Wow. I remember, like a year or two ago, they were trying to do, like ARL, like American Rugby League, and I guess didn't really catch on, which is a shame, because I think that's a very good sport. It should be done more. Anyway, in conclusion, it was pretty funny at the Olympics when, the New Zealand team played the American team in basketball, and they did a haka, and all the American players were like, what the fuck is this shit? And then we wrecked them. But anyway, I don't mean to impugn the good people of New Zealand, but I'm just saying, not everything requires you to bug your eyes out and, lash your tongue and spastically do jazz hands. All I'm saying. Just save it for special occasions is all I'm saying. Like, you don't need to channel your mana to take the baggage out of the claim, sir. Okay, but not to be outdone by New Zealand's idiocy. America's doing some stupid shit also, but when are we not? Okay, so the National Library of Medicine in the United States manages its website as part of the National Institute of Health under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. There have been articles on Panchgavya, speaking of India, cow-derived products appearing in PubMed, an NLM database that indexes peer-reviewed research on traditional medicine like Ayurveda, the traditional Indian medicine. These are articles in which they describe the benefits of cow urine and dung mixed together. To be more specific, let's see. To be more specific, this is the National Library of Medicine, again I repeat, saying that Panchgavaya is a precious gift to humankind. The abstract says Panchgavaya represents milk, urine, dung, ghee, and curd, derived from cow, and serves irreplaceable medical importance in Ayurveda and traditional Indian clinical practices. I mean, I like some curd and I like some ghee. They're tasty dairy products. Milk is good. Urine and dung, not so much. In Ayurveda, Panchgavaya treatment is termed as bovapathy or cowpathy. Okay, the Ayurveda recommends cow products to treat diseases of multiple systems, including severe conditions with almost no side effects. It can build a healthy population, alternative sources of energy, complete nutritional requirements, eradicate poverty, etc. I'm under the impression that drinking cow urine and eating cow feces might have some negative side effects. I also doubt its nutritional profile and its ability to eradicate poverty. In fact, I dare say that if you grab yourself a big steaming hot jug of cow pee, you're going to end up in poverty pretty damn quick. Babe Stankovic says, Monday's Indigenous Peoples Day. Hurrah. Yes, hurrah indeed. So, I don't know if my school's going to have a day off. I believe my school has a professional service day, which is basically the kids don't get to go to school, but we have to go to school and gad about doing stupid crap. I hate professional development so much. So, yeah. The National Library of Medicine is advocating grabbing big fistfuls of cow dung and slonking it down. Because, by God, that's what we need. I mean, I guess compared to drinking cow pee, spastic jazz hands aren't so bad after all. Also, the white people in New Zealand call it Pakeha, not Paheka. I got the consonants wrong, and I apologize for that. Misankovic says, professional development is your Haka. You see, sir, you spelled Haka with 2 Ks, not 1 K. The Hakas with 2 Ks are a minority population in China. I mean, I suppose professional development is sort of like both Hakas, in that it's senseless rituals that can be good in small doses but are done to the point of excess. And also it's like the 2K Haka because of school is an unending bureaucracy. If there's one thing Chinese people love, it's just unending bureaucracy and paperwork. Leaving politics behind in America, we're going to go just slightly south of the border and go to Mexico. What's going on in Mexico? The ruling party of Senora Claudia Sheinbaum has proposed a bill to ban memes. This hasn't passed yet, but there is a law that could jail people up to 6 years for posting memes or videos that humiliate politicians. They say it's protecting officials. They're making it so you literally can't make fun of politicians. A very important aspect of free speech. Some people say that at this point, can Mexico be called a democracy? I mean, I think it is still for the time being. However, I will say that everybody seems to ignore this. That Claudia Sheinbaum became the country's first female president after an election campaign in which 37 candidates were mysteriously assassinated. A mere 37, that's not at all suspicious. As far as I'm aware, this has not passed yet. But the fact that this would, in fact, be even considered is a bit unsettling. Okay, so says Nezahual Doomer 2. I am Mexican. Allow me to explain. The F word, not sure which F word he's referring to, that proposed this law is a guy who got butthurt because people made fun of him when he tried to take a selfie with Scheinbaum, and she smacked his phone away. His name is Armando Arvizu. People mocked him and made memes about the slap, and now he wants to censor everybody. You know, dare I say, if you get into politics, you should probably develop some thicker skin and, get used to people making fun of you. I mean, I'm a nobody YouTuber who has 5,270 subscribers, and even I get made fun of. You know what I do? I just grin and bear it because that's the price I pay for being a Z-list micro celebrity. Punito says the bodily equivalent of angrily reeing. Ree at the dying of the light. I presume referring to the Haka, sir. But yes, to reiterate, the Haka is cool in small doses when large angry men are doing it. Not so much when women in turtlenecks do it. Also, by the way, weren't women not allowed to even do them? I mean, granted, I'm not super well versed on Polynesian culture. But I know even Margaret Mead in her fuckery said that women were not allowed to go to men's, war councils and tribal councils. So I'd imagine it would be kind of similar. But yes, from what I noticed, quite a few citizens of Mexico are, memeing the hell out of her for the time being. Well, do it while it's still legal, boys. Yes, some people in Mexico say she's in the pocket of the cartels. I don't know for sure, but it seems slightly suspicious is all. Okay, and the memes go on. There's a meme of a sort of Kronos-esque caricature of Mrs. Scheinbaum eating the baby Mexico. Kronos eating his children and all that. And just goes on and on and on like this. The Skeksis from Dark Crystal, Mr. Burns, and so on and so forth. Alright, so what else do we have going on? I accidentally clicked out of my notes for a second. Let me just open that up again. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves as I do. Let's see. Yeah, it's just crap all around in terms of politics, because it always is. Let's stay in North America for a bit. Let's go to Canada. At one point in history, that might have been a good thing to say. It's not now. So says the Niagara Police. The Niagara Regional Police Service. Not the Mounties, just the regular beat cops. This is on the NRPS Twitter page. It's 9 p.m. Niagara. Have you completed your 9 p.m. routine? Ensure your valuables are secure. The cars, doors, and windows are locked, and alarms are activated if you have them. Why does the police need to tell people that you need to lock your doors? Well, gee, Michael Moore and American shitlers always tell me how Canadians leave their doors unlocked. They just ride mooses around and drink syrup all day because it's like the magical fairyland where nothing bad happens. I guess that's not the case anymore. Robert Diaz says nothing happens in Canada. Well, I mean, apparently something is happening in Canada because Canadians now have to be reminded by the police to lock their doors and windows and such. Again, this is very shocking to me because I've been taught all my life that Canada was a magical fairyland where people dance around the trees and drink syrup and ride mooses all day and nothing bad happens. But clearly the times they are changing. The replies, of course, are turned off by the NRPS. And perhaps that's for the best because from what I gather, some Canadians are not a bit happy about what's going on in Canada, for reasons other than just screaming about how there's Infinity Indians coming. I'm sure that's part of it. Yeah, it's boy, it seems like North America in general is just going down the shitter. America, Canada, Mexico. It's not great anywhere you go. Yeah, let's stay in the United States for a bit. There's some absolute crap going on. Speaking of indigenous people and also India, see, it's all tying together. I totally planned this out. It turns out that now Indian people, like Indian Indians, are claiming to be American Indians for scam purposes. There are ID cards in which Indian people are in fact claiming to be Native Americans for scam purposes. I mean, in both Canada and the United States. Here is a certificate of Indian status card in Canada. I believe there's something similar in America. Yes, because in Canada, I believe there's like reduced taxes. In America, there's certain like duty-free things you can sell as a Native American. Yes, according to Canada, Rajesh something or other. Rajesh Gandhi is a member of the Opaskwayak Cree people. I don't think so. I mean, I guess it is Indian status, depending on how you define Indian. But yeah, this seems a bit gauche to me. Seems a bit gauche to me that these people literally come to a nation in the past 20 years, long after all the civil rights battles have been fought. And then they're just like, I'm an oppressed brown person, sir. Give me the shit. I do have to, in a very vulgar way, I do have to kind of admire the audacity I don't know. I guess I'm just too mentally weak. Like, I don't have it in me to just run brazen scams like this and like just bilk people out of millions of dollars. I don't know. Is it wrong that I don't have that in me to like, just rip people off and drive employees as a slave? And maybe it's a character fault of mine. I don't know. People are saying in the thread, there was a lady who had Instagrams and TikToks saying how in the United States, like, Indian people are also claiming to be like Cherokees and stuff. And that's not good. Well, if you didn't want me to exploit this Indian Act, why'd you call it the Indian Act, sir? Okay, moving on from that. Shinseki Evan says you could probably pass as Native American. I've actually been confused for being one at one point. I usually got usually people confuse me as being some sort of swarthy med. Like, I get like Italian, Greek, Hispanic. I get those a lot actually. So yeah, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if I could. I don't want to. Because unlike Rajesh Gandhi, I actually have some sense of shame and self-respect, and I won't run scams on the government. I say this as if I wasn't planning on, back before I got married, and California was talking about those reparations. I was thinking, like, what if I marry a black woman in a scam and get, like, reparation money? But yes, I'm going to pretend like I have dignity and, shame, and I'm not going to do that. And the thing with, I'm sure I could, and the thing with me pretending to be a Native American is that I could probably get away with it if I wanted to sell, like, shit at a flea market. But if I wanted to actually get registered as, like, a member of a tribe, I can't, because they do that blood quantum and stuff, and that wouldn't work. But hey, I could, if I wanted to make Kushina dolls and dream catchers, I could sell them at the flea market. That's about it. Leaving the North American continent behind, let's go to Germany. Again, not something you want to hear necessarily, but here we go. In Germany has proposed raising the retirement age to 73, the mandatory retirement age to 73, to prevent the collapse of the pension system, so says Reuters. Now, as an American, I take a bitter, bitter laughter at this, Schadenfreude, as the Germans would say, at how, they always brag about their health care and their socialized, this and that, and the pensions. Well, it looks like you're not getting that, Hans. Now, I was under the impression, and so says all the leaders of Europe, that the main point of bringing in infinity Beaumalians and infinity immigrants was that they'll be supporting the pensions. Those hardworking immigrants who are better than you in every possible way, they'll be working hard and they'll be paying your pension. It turns out it's topsy-turvy day. Turns out that the pensioners, the old people, got to keep working to support the migrants. It is, in fact, totally flipped around. Okay, good to know. Wow, who would have thought that bringing in a bunch of unproductive losers was in fact going to strain the pension system. They were in fact not going to pay into the system. They're going to take out of the system. Boy, this, who could have seen this coming? And then, of course, this has downstream effects. Old people having to work longer means that young people can't get good jobs, which means that young people can't start families and buy houses and things. Everybody suffers. Also, we can prop up infinity Beaumalians. Good stuff. I mean, this is totally unforeseen to anybody who doesn't have basic intelligence. But if we just keep bringing in migrant workers, it'll fix itself, apparently. Eventually it'll fix itself. Okay, let's see. So, sorry, Europe, you'll no longer have your glorious pensions and be able to take 3-month vacations. Let's check out some comments here. Base Language says, give up your cow to the fascist state. Oh, I think we're all giving up our cows to the state, sir. But what we have is, it's not, I wouldn't say we're fascist per se. Any country's really fascist. We're like this weird neoliberal managerialist state run by, like, women in problem glasses. I don't know what you call it. Like, some people say gay race communism. Some people say, like, theater kid occupied government. Whatever it is, it sucks. Ponythroat says he hasn't been chatting much since I've been 3D modeling a swings club in the other window. What is a swings club? Well, there's swingers clubs. I'm assuming that's not what you're modeling. Hey. Let's see, we got a few more political stories. I'm going to get to the silly side in the pop culture. Let me just open up everything here. All these stories kind of vaguely relate to each other. They all kind of relate to, the subcontinent and just general political woes and everything. But yeah, let's stick with that, actually. Okay, so a Twitter post has gone a bit viral about HR. And by the way, if anybody is looking for a job, I sincerely apologize. It's pretty rough for you right now. A friend of the family is looking for a job, and it's not great. So says some HR broad who, does happen to be Indian, just FYI. I once interviewed a candidate who said all the right things, but he leaned so far into the camera I thought he might crawl through the screen. Great resume, solid skills, but the vibe, pure desperation. A recruiter can smell neediness faster than we smell coffee in the morning. So you didn't hire him because he wanted the job? I don't understand the logic here. Oh, he's so needy. He gives me the ick. I didn't hire him. Do women just... I'm sorry. Do these HR women, do they just approach every job interview as if it's a date? Like, they treat the interviewee as if they're taking them out on a date, and if they give them the ick, they fire them? Why am I asking that question? Of course that's how they approach hiring. Incidentally, the new HR-related memes, there's a very specific picture of Anne Hathaway that's used as, like, the image of, like, castrating HR broads. And I really think that's unfair to Anne Hathaway, because by all accounts, she's very nice, and she doesn't deserve this. But I gotta say, it is pretty funny. But in all seriousness, God, I hate HR women. Like, There's a few people who just make this country worse, and HR broads in general are that. Like, I want the economy to take a big hit because they'd fire useless people like HR. So, hopefully that'll get done. Like, some people say I hate HR too much. I think I don't hate HR enough, actually. Like, it's... Oh my God, he wanted the job too bad. You would think you would want the guy who's eager to work and desperate to work. He might work harder, in fact. I guess not. I guarantee that this woman, this HR broad, is the same kind of woman who says that I get off on rejecting, potential dates just so I can feel better. I don't know. As a society, we need to do something to just... We need to do something to hurt HR women, not in the physical sense, but in the emotional and mental sense. Like, I don't know what to do, but this has to be done. It has to be done now. And to think some women say that if women ran the world, there wouldn't be wars. I disagree, actually. Ponythroat says, I meant swingers club. A wooden crossbeam with some ropes. I see. Ponythroat says, letting women hire candidates and not expecting them to hire on the basis of, OMG, he's such a creep. He's not even well-dressed for this welding job. He's expecting $1 change out of 75 cents. I would question why an HR company would even... I'm sorry, why a welding warehouse would even need an HR woman. One would think that you could just, I don't know, have the guy weld a little bit to see how good he is at it. I mean, like, I used to work for a moving company. You know what my job interview involved? Picking up heavy shit and moving it. And when they saw I could do that, I got the job. And I held the job until I sprained my wrist, and then they threw me out on the street. That's a whole different story. Ponythroat says, I love candidates, but I would never, ever, ever hire one. HR. Yep, just about. It's like recruiters, when the person who they want to get a job wants a job. It's like, it's, you know, the meme. It's like the black guy who's like, oh, like his mouth is open. But yes, I hate HR broads, but I repeat, Anne Hathaway does not deserve to be slandered as an HR broad. It's, as far as I'm aware, she's never been in HR. Okay. In other news, let's talk about some weird sex stuff, because of course we are. And this also ties into politics. Let's go to Iran. The New York Times had an astonishing article that was praising Iran's treatment of the transgender people. Essentially, Iran's very good on the T, but not good on the LGB and Q. And I quote, Iran is one of the few places in the Muslim world that allows transgender people to seek gender-affirming care and subsidizes it. This belies the abusive history of the operations and the grim reality for most people there. In Iran, gay men and lesbians can be punished with death, and they basically have the choice of either dying or getting gender reassignment surgery, because apparently that makes it straight. I don't understand the logic here. I mean, I'm not a 12er Shiite, so I guess maybe that was Ali's blessing there. But I don't understand how being gay is not okay, but being trans is okay. Like, can we get the Ayatollah in here and make some comments about how that makes sense? I'd appreciate that, Khomeini. Not to be outdone by weird sex things. Richard Hanania, pause for laughter, had something to say about Papua New Guinea. Okay. He was referring to Ayala, the famous e-thought. She says, I low-key don't get when people say childhood sexual experiences fucked up my sexuality. Kids don't experience this as sexual. I was 8. I experienced it, but I didn't know it was sexual. It was just some adult doing things to my body without my permission. I didn't understand it. I think it did affect you, ma'am. You just you didn't realize it. Richard Hanania, a man who looks more like a goblin than any human being I've ever seen, agrees with Ayala. How is this not true? The trauma, in scare quotes, of sexual abuse is based on how society interprets such behavior. As far as I know, nobody thinks that the Papua New Guinean tribes traumatized the children during accepted rituals that would be considered abusive in the West. You sure about that, Richard? Because, as far as I'm aware, some of those rituals involve very, very bad things being done to children. Like, the children has to ascend to manhood by just guzzling as much semen as possible. Like, that kind of thing. And I believe the children do get traumatized by it. Or maybe there's another reason why Papua New Guinea has some of the highest homicide rates on the planet. I've said this before and I'll say it again, but Richard Hanania has not been punched in the face nearly enough in his life, and that is a major problem. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Yes, apparently some anthropologists were a bit upset at the change, the cultural diffusion of Western culture into New Guinea. Yeah, I bet they were. Hert, H-E-R-D-T, wrote about the New Guinean sexual revolution in his work, The Sambia, in 2006. To go from absolute gender segregation and arranged marriages with universal ritual initiation that controlled sexual and gender development and imposed a radical practice of boy insemination to abandoning the initiation, seeing adolescent boys and girls kissing and holding hands in public, choosing love marriages and building houses. It is revolutionary. Yeah, I bet this guy was really upset about the, boys not having to guzzle like miles of cock to become men. Maybe that Key and Peele skit about anthropologists was more accurate than we think. But it must respect the local customs. Yeah, it really is like that sometimes. Yeah, if you haven't seen that skit, it's pretty funny. It's they're like 19th century British anthropologists, and they're talking about their, adventures with isolated tribes, and the joke being that graduates reveal that basically they're just using anthropology as an excuse to go and have sex with like random people in different tribes. It's pretty funny. Yeah, apparently that's a real thing. Then again, I'm pretty sure Richard Hanania also wants boy insemination to happen. He'd be real down with Papua New Guinean culture. Now, I mean, personally, to paraphrase Charles Napier of British India, you say that your culture has a practice where men line up to shove their dicks into boys' mouths. Okay, fair enough. In my culture, we have a practice where we shove those men into wood chippers. Let us all practice our cultures as best as we see fit. I am genuinely curious as to how that even develops as a culture. Like, I mean, even a culture like, even a culture that's dysfunctional like Afghanistan or something, like the insane like xenophobia and combativeness, at least kind of makes sense in a society of tribal warfare. Like, I genuinely cannot understand how like a culture of men lining up to shove their dicks into a teenage boy's mouth like ever became a thing. Did nobody realize this was not beneficial at all? Hey, look at some comments here, and nobody's commenting. Boy, I would have thought that talking about New Guinean boy buggering would have gotten all the commenters coming. Guess not. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay. Speaking of stupid political pundits and commentators, Tucker Carlson had some really dumb shit to say. And we got one more political thing to talk about after this. But yes, Tucker Carlson has come out basically in favor of, drumroll please, feudalism. Tucker's basically says, yeah, I'm down with feudalism. I do prefer the feudal model. It's the model of all time. It's better than what we have now. At least a feudal leader is invested in his people's property. Sorry, property might be the right word. The leader's invested in his people's prosperity. Yeah, that ius prima noctis, that's some real investment there. I understand that Tucker does have some legitimate criticisms about late-stage democracy, which I would say is more managerial and bureaucracy. But all those issues are found in feudalism. Of course, Tucker Carlson is literally a billionaire, so in the words of Razor Fist, he can go fishing and buy ugly-ass Cosby sweaters no matter what. Whereas us little people, we have to work as serfs under the feudal landlords. I mean, I think we all know that feudalism is wildly inefficient, and which is why, it gave way to absolute monarchy in places like Han Dynasty China and, Bourbon Dynasty France. But yeah, let's bring feudalism back. I mean, I have always said that they basically want to bring it back implicitly, but I guess it's explicit now too. Yes, our children can too be, disheveled peasants wearing like crappy hoods and, dancing around trees and stuff in the brief moments of respite we had between backbreaking labor. Yeah, that is not a good look there, Tucker. Okay, moving on from that. And finally, I'm not done with the stream yet, but in shitty pundit news, Hasan Piker, pause for laughter, the internet streamer, the nephew of Chunk Uyghur of the Young Turks Network, he was caught on stream screaming at his dog and putting a shock collar to his dog because she got up to stretch while he was screaming about how much he hates America. Bear in mind that this man literally lives in a $3 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and he goes on and on about how much he hates the country that enabled him to have this life of luxury. And he tortures a dog on camera just because. And this is a terrible, terrible, terrible look for a terrible, terrible man. You know, Hasan Piker is, of course, a just the epitome of a nuggy socialist, as I've mentioned before. He sits in his mansion and eats chicken nuggies while he complains about the country that provides him with that lifestyle. And, yeah, he killed the dog. I mean, to be fair, he is Turkish, and that's pretty in character. Or at the very least, for the Young Turks, who are the namesake of his uncle's news channel. In 1910, the Young Turks rounded up all the street dogs in Istanbul and literally just dropped them on an island and starved them to death. Hayırsizade Dog Massacre. The governor of Istanbul ordered the stray dogs to be rounded up and exiled to Sivriada Island. Most of them died due to hunger and thirst. Some tried to swim away and they drowned. Okay. Now, nothing like this has quite happened since. However, there is some reports about brutal methods of killing stray dogs. Various methods of abuse, like dogs being beaten, bludgeoned, poisoned, or buried alive. Now, I'm sure that stray dogs are a big problem in Istanbul, as they are in many third world countries. However, I know that the United States actually, with stray dogs and cats, we neuter and spay them so that they'll die of natural causes, and that'll reduce the population over the long term. So just killing them. But yeah, I gotta say, people who hurt dogs are bad people. And they should not be trusted. As if you didn't have any doubt before, Hasan Piker, bad man. He puts a shock collar on his dog. I mean, to be fair, dogs are haram in Islam, so maybe he's just carrying out his precepts. However, I should point out that the Prophet Muhammad was a very big cat lover. There are several hadiths about his treatment of cats. Ponythroat says, I left to get something for a few minutes, so I've missed some stuff. Safe to say, Larsen's talking about how those kulaks deserved it. I haven't been talking about communism at all, sir. I'm talking about Hasan Piker being a creep who electroshocks his dog. In a dark way, it is very funny how this guy's screaming about how much he hates America as his dog is being electrocuted behind him. And I presume he made some chicken tendies. Ponythroat says, Asmongold will never shock his pet cockroaches. I don't even know if electroshocks would do much to a cockroach. I mean, I do like some cockroaches, like the Madagascar cockroaches are cool. The domino cockroaches are pretty cool. Narahari Kamath says he's a delusional rich guy. Yes, he sure is. Now, to be fair, there are some Turkish animal rights groups who protest the poor treatment of dogs. And, yes, they should. But more work needs to be done. Let's go to the pop culture and silly side of things. First of all, YouTubers, speaking of YouTubers, Dr. Mike Israetel of Renaissance Periodization is in a bit of hot water. He's a fitness guy. I actually like some of his videos. He seems fairly knowledgeable to me. That's when he profiles workout tapes and stuff. But his whole brand is about how he is a PhD in kinesthesiology. He's a PhD of sports medicine. And, fair enough, you look at him, he's pretty jacked. He's got a bit of a gut, but he's very strong. You can see he's got muscles. From what I gather, he was he tried to be a pro bodybuilder, he couldn't quite make it. But he seems like he's fairly knowledgeable. Apparently this may not be the case, because Greg Doucette and Zerk Fitness and some other places have been just tearing into him. They say that he is an academic fraud. They say that he has a PhD, but his PhD work was not great. They looked at his PhD, where a guy goes through his dissertation, he goes through the whole thing, and he says this PhD sucks. The research methodology was not good. You have multiple typos. Your sample size literally includes, the range of standard deviations you have for your sample size of body mass and stuff. Literally has people who are 4 pounds to 1,000 pounds, and 2 feet tall to 11 feet tall. So apparently his research sample was including babies and giants. And in conclusion, the conclusion of the thesis was basically being strong makes you more athletic. You don't say, Mike. Yeah, so guys like Greg Doucette and Solomon somebody destroyed that dissertation. Dr. Mike did not respond, but then his friend Milo Wolf did respond. Dr. Mike claims that you have an early draft, which he got from the University of San Diego, I believe, or wherever he went to school. Which, they don't, as somebody who has written a master's thesis, they don't take early drafts and put them in the school library, sir. The friend of Dr. Mike claims that he has the real version on his Google Drive, which is very strange. Dr. Mike, who is now referred to mockingly as Mr. Mike, claims he never talks about his PhD, even though he refers to himself as Dr. Mike. Hey. This seems a bit like damage control. Yeah, Solomon Nelson. Yeah, if you want to watch it, there's an hour and 10-minute video where he just tears apart this dude's dissertation. And, fair enough. I'm not going to pretend my thesis that I wrote is any great masterpiece, because it's really not, and I doubt anyone's ever going to read it ever again, but, I don't build my brand on it. I don't define myself as, Larsen Howe, the PhD, master's thesis man. Dr. Mike, Mr. Mike, you really could have just, you could have very easily handled this. You could have just said, I was young, I basically phoned in my thesis, I know it sucks, but you can look at my work now and it's good. That literally would have, dealt with it much better. This whole thing would have blown over in a month. But no, you spazzed out and you panicked and tried to do damage control, and you made it a lot worse. So, just to give a brief recap of what's going on. Dr. Mike, had a bodybuilding show where he failed at. He blamed the tanning company. He said he's bigger than Mike Menzer, the Mr. Universe bodybuilder. And so on and so forth. So, I guess Mr. Mike isn't so good after all. Pundit says his dog ate his PhD thesis. Yeah, probably. Alpha Rodriguez says, I like motherfucker Mike from Board James. Yeah, Mike Matei's a better man than Mike Israetel, and apparently he might even be a better exercise scientist. Some people are accusing Dr. Mike's crap of not being very good, and he just uses steroids. I think that's quite possible. And finally, in pop culture news, Taylor Swift's new album, The Life and Times of a Showgirl, comes out, and she is Street Fighter 2ing the hell out of that album. What do I mean? Taylor Swift has released her new album, and she's releasing a bunch of, available for 6 hours, gotcha game, mini albums that are slightly different from her, album. Apparently, there's 28 of these available now. And to me, I've never seen such blatant milking of your fan base. The only thing I can compare it to is Capcom in the 90s making infinity permutations of Street Fighter 2 and releasing them as brand new games because they're slightly different. How, out of curiosity, how many of these variants are there? I'm trying to find okay, come on. Okay, I'm trying to find an exact number. I want to say it was 28, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I guess I'm not entirely wait, okay. Yes, there are 30 variants of Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl. Out of curiosity, I'm going to look up how many variants of Street Fighter 2 there are. And bear in mind that Capcom was literally releasing, for a game that came out in 1991, they were literally releasing variants of SF2 until well into the 2000s. I think around 2007 they were still at least re-releasing them. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to look up all the variants of Street Fighter 2. Let's see. Now, of course, there were 3 or 4 variants of Mortal Kombat 3. But let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 variants of Street Fighter 2, and there are 30 variants of Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl. Bravo, Taylor Swift. You've outgreeded the Capcom Corporation. That's genuinely impressive. Bravo, miss. Now, just for the fun of it, let's name all the variants here. Let's do Street Fighter 2 first. Okay. Okay, there's Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting, aka Dash Turbo. Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers, which is really the only expansion that's worth anything because it has new characters and stuff. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, The Ultimate Championship. Street Fighter Collection. Street Fighter Collection 2. Super Street Fighter 2 X. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo Revival. Hyper Street Fighter 2 The Anniversary Edition. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix. Ultra Street Fighter 2, the final challengers. Okay, that's Street Fighter 2. Now let's run through this Taylor Swift crap. Taylor Swift, The Life of a Showgirl, Sweat and Vanilla Perfume on vinyl. Sweat and Vanilla Perfume on CD with poster. Sweat and Vanilla Perfume on cassette. Okay, It's Beautiful Edition. It's Rapturous Edition. It's Frightening Edition. Sweat and Vanilla Perfume Limited Release Deluxe. Those are the last 4 on CDs. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vinyls. Okay, Shiny Bug Edition. Wintergreen. Shiny Bug Edition. Violet Shimmer. Baby, That's Show Business. Lovely Bouquet. Baby, That's Show Business. Lakeside Beach. Tiny Bubbles and Champagne. Bright Lights. Tiny Bubbles and Champagne. Red Lipstick and Lace. Back to CDs. CD with poster. Target exclusive. Okay, these are just posters for Frightening, Beautiful, and Rapturous. Digital downloads. I Look Behind the Curtain. Spotify fan first with a crew neck. You get a sweater. Interesting. Then there's another one with a sweater, but it's a cardigan this time. Number 20. The Crowd Is Your King edition. And then the next 8 are CDs. With hand signed photo 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alone in the Tower acoustic version. Dressing Room rehearsal version. Life is a Song acoustic version. Glamorous Cabaret version. That's 28, and apparently there's 2 more now. I think some people are lumping these together or disaggregating them. But yeah, this is. I mean, we make fun of like Japanese video game companies for shamelessly milking their shit. You know, like the 11 variants of Street Fighter 2, or what has it been, like 5 or 6 re-releases of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But boy, Taylor Swift is just kicking their asses and just shameless greed and penny pinching. Do you even need to penny pinch me for sheet music anymore, Ms. Swift? Or Ms. Swift Kelsey, whatever the hell you're calling yourself nowadays. Yeah, probably. Okay. Looking at some comments here. Pony Throat says, he's like Mike Chang, 6-pack shortcuts. The shortcut is steroids. Yes, you all remember Mike Chang not being able to do a single pull-up with weights. Yeah, he got roasted by Infinite Elgin Tensity, the trap guy, who's a much better Oriental fitness man on YouTube. Biff Sienkiewicz says she's on every talk show. Alpha Rodriguez says, 8 days ago, somebody said on Zitter, I said Taylor Swift's new album sucks, and I didn't even get a single death threat from a Swiftie. That's how bad it is. One of my music students is a big Swiftie. I guess I'll ask her about it. Also, fun fact, my ex-girlfriend was also a big Swiftie, the one who wanted me to punch her in the face repeatedly, so you can take that as you will. Alpha Rodriguez says there were originally supposed to be 255 hidden variants of Gen 1. They wanted to do 7 colors and cut it down to 2 with 2. Ponythroat says Street Fighter 2, Casual Racism Edition. Well, I mean, that's every edition of Street Fighter. Hey. It took me a while to get what Alpha Rodriguez was saying. I think he was talking about Pokemon. But yeah, Pokemon Red and Blue. International Red and Blue had exclusives from Japanese Red and Green with the graphics of Japanese Blue. Alpha Rodriguez says, didn't they add new characters multiple times? Well, yes. Yeah, you had, the new challengers. That was like, you had Cammy, Fei Long, T-Hawk, and who else? I forget. I should know this. Okay, let's see. New challengers. Oh, you could play as Bison. Oh, yeah, and DJ. Yeah, then later editions had Akuma and like Shinryu and like Evil Ken. I don't really count those as new characters per se. Ponythroat says, Sweat and vanilla perfume on CED and Edison cylinder. I would not be surprised if she did that. $30 variants and 1 film. If you wanted to buy it all, you have to pay $1,080. Does she need the money? Apparently so. Genuinely curious, is she even doing anything that would be remotely showgirl-ish? Like the, cabaret loungecore style? I don't know, and I so don't care. Honey, we have to take out a mortgage to buy all the variants of Taylor Swift's new crap fest. Okay, Ponythroat says they didn't even make T-Hawk a computer nerd like in Mortal Kombat. I don't know, Chief Thunder from Killer Instinct is always going to be my favorite, Native American stereotype character. Ponythroat says, does Larsen know what a CED is? No, I don't. Capacitance electronic disc, an obsolete video disc format. I mean, why not break out the Betamax? Yeah, break out some Betamax, Taylor. Al from Riga says she played piano good on SNL 12 years ago. I'm not saying she's not talented. It's just the shameless money grubbing is a little much for me to take. I mean, I guess she learned from the best. Her old high school employer, Jeff Jarrett, taught her how to squeeze pennies out of people. Yes, there is a Taylor Swift Jeff Jarrett connection, and apparently they're still fairly good friends, which I think is kind of amusing. Almost as amusing as Vince McMahon coming out after the WCW purchase and basically saying explicitly, I'm never hiring Jeff Jarrett again. He can go fuck himself. Ponythroat says, are those variants even NFTs, bro? Ponythroat says, beta maxing. Yes. Alfredo says, do showgirls know how to play piano? I mean, some of them do, I guess. I don't know, is there a way you can play piano while also ripping off your clothes? Because if so, then yes. So, with that being said, that does it for my prepared remarks. Say your last pieces now if you want. But yeah, we really should, we should officially stop making jokes about Capcom's, sequel stagnation. Just make them Taylor Swift jokes. Because she cleaned the clock of Capcom right there. Alfreda says, didn't Lois and Family Guy play piano ripping off her clothes in a season 1 episode? Probably. Personally, I always felt like a bit of a failure as a piano player because I never got to play piano while some skank in a cocktail dress lounges on my piano. I mean, I've had, plenty of women, including my lovely wife, who I love dearly, kind of laying on a couch whilst I play piano, but it's not the same thing. Yeah, so say your last pieces now. I'm going to get myself some coffee. Alpha Marigi says Taylor Swift is still more attractive than the post-ugly stick Capcom characters. I'm not sure what you're referring to. As far as I'm aware, Capcom hasn't really done shit in several years. I mean, they're still better than Konami, which is doing nothing. Did the Street Fighter characters become really ugly all of a sudden? I should probably look that up. Alfredo says, give your missus the dress and get padlock and blinds for piano. Well, the thing is, I have a synth, I have a keyboard. I can't really... It's not quite the same thing. Like how I could ever put a grand piano in my house. Alpha Riga says ESG money made lots of characters ugly. Let's see. I mean, apparently, Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui are in Street Fighter now. I was not aware of this. Alrighty, so I think we're done here. For Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.